Commander Vox tapped his four-fingered hand on the glass desk as he reviewed the final assessment report. The blue light from the screen reflected on his gray skin. His third eye, located in the center of his forehead, blinked independently from the other two as he focused on the data. Earth. What a strange little planet, he muttered. The holographic display showed images of human cities, their primitive aircraft, and their most advanced space vessels, simple modules orbiting their own planet, and a few robots exploring their nearest neighbors. Class 3 threat level, Vox said with finality, entering the classification. Barely worth our attention. Officer Trell stood nearby, her slim frame tense with disagreement. She stepped forward, her skin shifting to a lighter shade of gray, a sign of concern among their species. Commander, with respect, I believe this assessment is incorrect, she said. There are patterns in human behavior that suggest. Patterns? Vox laughed, cutting her off. What patterns? Look at them. Trell. They fight over invisible borders. They cannot agree on simple planetary governance. Half of them don't even believe in basic science. Some still think their planet is flat. He pulled up more images, humans arguing in their governing chambers, protests in streets, wars in desert regions. They have nuclear weapons, Trell pointed out, which they've only used twice, and against themselves, Vox countered. Besides, what good are nuclear weapons against our shield technology? They couldn't even reach our nearest outpost with their fastest ships. It would take them, he calculated quickly, over 100 of their years. Trell's lower eye narrowed. That's not what concerns me, Commander. It's their adaptability, their unpredictability. No other species we've encountered shows such chaotic innovation. Vox waved his hand dismissively. Your concern is noted, officer, but the Galactic Confederation has standardized protocols for threat assessment, and Earth fails to meet any criteria for a higher classification. He pressed his palm to the screen, finalizing the report with his biosignature. Class 3 it is. We'll maintain basic surveillance and review again in 50 years. Trell bowed slightly, knowing further argument was useless. Yes, Commander. Lieutenant Alex Drake stood at the observation window of the Confederation outpost Gamma 9, located in what humans call the Kuiper Belt. To the aliens, he appeared attentive and respectful, even a bit awestruck by their technology, as expected from a species new to the galactic community. None of them noticed how his eyes tracked the movement of their security drones, or how he counted the seconds between automated system checks. This is remarkable technology, Drake said to his alien guide, a junior officer named Milt. The way you harness quantum energy for your communications, we're still figuring out how to make stable quantum computers on Earth. Milt puffed up with pride. Yes, we achieved quantum mastery over 2,000 years ago. Your species is young, but showing promise. That's why we've allowed human representatives at our outposts to learn. Drake nodded humbly. We're very grateful for the opportunity. A notification chimed on Milt's wrist device. Excuse me, Lieutenant. I need to attend to this. Please feel free to enjoy the view from the observation deck. The restricted areas are clearly marked. Of course, Drake said with a polite smile. I wouldn't dream of overstepping. As soon as Milt left, Drake's demeanor changed. His eyes hardened, and he pulled a device smaller than his thumb from his pocket. Moving casually toward a maintenance panel, he pressed the device against it for 3 seconds, then continued walking as if simply exploring the observation deck. Later that night, in his quarters, Drake opened a secure communication channel disguised as a personal entertainment device. The message was brief and encoded. Package DELIVRD. System Access Stabilized. Proceed Phase 2. The reply came within seconds. ACKNO.LEGGD. Maintain position. 53 similar installations infiltrated. Keuntiyodoen. 97 days. Drake allowed himself a small smile before destroying the evidence of the communication. At Confederation headquarters, Commander Vox was preparing to end his shift when a junior analyst rushed in. "Commander, we're receiving strange reports from the outer sectors. Multiple outposts going dark." Vox frowned. "Define dark." "Complete communication blackout, sir. No quantum signals. No light-speed transmissions. Nothing. It started with Outpost Theta 12 8 hours ago. Now we've lost contact with 5 more. Probably a quantum relay malfunction," Vox said, though a flicker of worry crossed his face. "Have the nearest patrol ships investigate." "Already done, sir. That's the problem. We've lost contact with those ships too." Vox's third eye widened. "Show me the pattern of these outages." The analyst projected a map of the affected sectors. Vox studied it, his concern growing. The outages weren't random. They'd followed a clear pattern, spreading inward from the galaxy's edge. "When did the last outpost go silent?" he asked. 17 minutes ago, sir." "At this rate." The analyst's voice trailed off. "At this rate, what?" Vox demanded. "At this rate, the blackout will reach major Confederation worlds within days." Vox remembered Trell's warnings about human unpredictability. But no, this couldn't be related to Earth. Humans were primitives, barely able to reach their own moon without tremendous effort. His communicator beeped, a priority message from the High Council. "Commander Vox, your presence is required immediately. Multiple sectors have gone silent. We are declaring a Level 1 emergency." Vox felt a chill run through his body. Level 1 emergencies were almost unheard of in the Confederation's 10,000-year history. "On my way," he replied, rushing out of his office. As he hurried down the corridor, he passed the human diplomatic section. Lieutenant Drake and 2 other human representatives were calmly drinking beverages in their lounge area. They nodded respectfully as he passed. For just a moment, Vox thought he saw something in Drake's eyes. A knowing look, quickly hidden behind a mask of deference. But he was too preoccupied to dwell on it. Behind him, Drake watched the commanders retreating back, then glanced at his watch. "It's beginning," he said softly to his colleagues. "Right on schedule." The other humans nodded, their expressions neutral but their eyes bright with the knowledge of what was coming. Across the vast reaches of space, in outposts, on ships, and on planets throughout the Confederation, other humans, diplomatic staff, maintenance workers, cultural exchange representatives, checked their timepieces and waited. The Confederation had never imagined that the primitive humans could be a threat. That was their first mistake. Soon, they would discover just how many others they had made. Commander Vox had never seen the High Council chamber so empty. Of the 60 seats arranged in the circular room, only 28 were filled. The rest belonged to representatives from sectors that had gone silent over the past month. The Supreme Counselor, an ancient being named Grell whose skin had faded to almost white with age, called the emergency meeting to order. "We face an unprecedented crisis," Grell announced, his voice amplified through the chamber. "Nearly half of our Confederation territories are now dark. No communications, no trade vessels, nothing." A military officer stood up. "Supreme Counselor, I recommend we deploy the battle fleet to investigate." "We already have," replied the admiral of the fleet. "We've lost contact with 30% of our ships. The rest are returning to core worlds as ordered." Vox looked around the room. Fear was visible on every face, an emotion rarely displayed in Confederation meetings. Could it be a natural phenomenon? Asked a science advisor. Perhaps a wave of quantum disruption from beyond the galaxy. That wouldn't explain why our ships go silent when they enter affected areas, the admiral countered. This is targeted. This is an attack. The word hung in the air. Attack. But by whom? The Confederation had no enemies capable of such a coordinated strike. They had been the dominant power in the galaxy for thousands of years. Vox's communicator beeped. It was Officer Trell. "Commander, I've been analyzing the pattern of outages," she said urgently. "There's something you need to see." "Not now, Trell." "I'm in the High Council meeting," Vox whispered. "Sir," This is. The connection suddenly cut off. At the same moment, the chamber's lighting flickered. "We've lost connection to Orbital Station 1, announced a technician. And Station 2. And all orbital communications." Panic erupted in the chamber. Orbital Station 1 was directly above them, in orbit around the Confederation capital world. Vox looked up at the observation gallery where various diplomatic representatives were seated. The human contingent was getting up to leave, moving calmly toward the exit, while other species rushed about in confusion. Lieutenant Drake caught Vox's eye for a moment. This time, there was no mistaking the look. It wasn't respect or deference. It was something like pity. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of the Confederation battlecruiser Invincible, the flagship of the Third Fleet. The massive ship, over 3 kilometers long, represented the pinnacle of Confederation military power. "Status report," he demanded. His second-in-command, Captain Pell, looked worried. "Sir, we've lost contact with the 4th and 5th Fleets, and our long-range scanners are detecting no signals from any of the silent sectors. What about short-range communications with our escort ships? Still operational, Admiral?" Krell nodded. At least his battle group was intact. 16 warships, all top of the line, with crews trained to handle any threat. "Set course for the Epsilon sector border," he ordered. "We'll establish a perimeter and investigate the silence." "Sir," a junior officer interrupted. "Engineering reports problems with the quantum drive. It's showing signs of instability." Krell frowned. The drive was inspected last week. It was functioning perfectly. "Yes, sir. The chief engineer is investigating." Captain Pell checked his datapad. "Sir, the maintenance logs show that the human technical advisors were assisting with routine checks 3 days ago." "The humans?" Krell looked surprised. "What would they know about quantum drives? Their species hasn't even mastered basic faster-than-light travel." An alarm blared through the ship. Red emergency lights flashed. "Multiple systems failing, Admiral," shouted the operations officer. "Weapons, shields, propulsion, all going offline." "How is this possible?" Krell demanded. Captain Pell's eyes widened with sudden realization. "Sir, I saw the human technicians accessing the central computer core during their inspection. I didn't think anything of it at the time since they were authorized personnel." "Impossible," Krell said. "Humans don't have the knowledge to." The ship lurched violently as the main engine shut down. Emergency power kicked in, keeping life support and artificial gravity functioning, but little else. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from Earth." Meanwhile, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, General West stood in the global command center of the United Earth Defense Force. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored massive screens showing real-time data from across the galaxy. "Phase 1 is 87% complete," General reported Colonel James. "Confederation communications network has been compromised. Their fleet is scattered and largely disabled." West nodded, his face stern but satisfied. "And Phase 2? Ready to proceed on your order, sir." West walked to a central console and placed his palm on a scanner. "Authorization. West, Thomas J., General, UEDF. Execute Phase 2. Across the solar system, hidden installations buried in asteroids, concealed beneath the surfaces of moons, and floating camouflaged in the Kuiper Belt suddenly activated. Thousands of ships, sleek, black vessels that had never been seen by Confederation observers, powered up their engines. "Stealth fleet reporting ready, General," announced a communications officer. "All 5,000 ships awaiting deployment orders." On the main screen, a map of the galaxy showed large sections turning from red, Confederation-controlled, to blue, Earth-controlled. "The deception worked perfectly, sir," said Colonel James. "They never saw us coming." West's expression remained grave. "They saw what we wanted them to see, Colonel. A divided planet of squabbling primitives. It was the perfect cover while we prepared." "Sir," interrupted an officer, "we're getting a priority message from Lieutenant Drake on the Confederation capital world." Drake's face appeared on a side screen. "General, the blackout has reached the capital. The Council is in disarray. Request permission to proceed with capturing key Confederation leaders." "Granted, Lieutenant. Remember, minimal casualties. We want them as allies eventually, not enemies." "Understood, sir." Drake out. As the connection ended, West turned to address the command center. 200 years ago, our ancestors detected the first Confederation probes entering our solar system. Instead of announcing ourselves, they made the bold decision to hide our true capabilities. For generations, we've maintained the illusion of being primitive while secretly building the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. He paused, looking at the officers around him. "Today, we end the charade. Today, humanity takes its place among the stars, not as junior members of their confederation, but as its new leaders." The room erupted in applause. On a secondary screen, Admiral Krell's face appeared as the Invincible received Earth's transmission. His expression changed from confusion to shock as he realized the truth about the supposedly primitive species his people had so fatally underestimated. Commander Vox ran through the darkened corridors of the Confederation Capitol building. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow as officials and diplomats rushed in all directions. The once orderly seat of galactic government had descended into chaos within hours. "Trell," he called out, spotting his officer trying to access a computer terminal. "What's happening?" She looked up, her gray skin now almost white with stress. "It's a coordinated attack, Commander. All systems are failing. Defense networks, communication arrays, everything." "By whom? Who could possibly have the technology to?" "The humans," Trell said flatly. "I tried to warn you." Vox stared at her in disbelief. "That's impossible. They're primitives. They don't even have faster-than-light travel." "Follow me," Trell said, abandoning the useless terminal. "There's someone you need to meet." They made their way deeper into the building, descending levels that Vox didn't even know existed. Finally, they reached a heavy door with ancient markings. "What is this place?" he asked. "The archive," Trell replied. "Few know of its existence." Inside, they found an elderly alien hunched over a desk covered with physical books and papers. Technology so outdated that most Confederation citizens had never seen such things. "Archivist Mev," Trell said respectfully. "I've brought Commander Vox." The ancient being looked up slowly. His species was different from Vox's, with pale blue skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle on his face. "So this is the one who classified Earth as a Class 3 threat," Mev said, his voice crackling with age. "Sit down, Commander. It's time you learned the truth." Mev pushed a dusty book toward Vox. "This is the record of the Zorn Empire. They ruled this galaxy 5,000 years ago, before the Confederation existed." "I've never heard of them," Vox admitted. "Exactly," Mev said. "They disappeared completely. Their last official records mention a newly discovered world with primitive but unusual inhabitants. They called it the Blue Planet." Vox's third eye widened. "Earth?" "Yes," Mev confirmed. "The Zorn Empire classified them as harmless. 3 years later, the entire empire vanished from history." "Are you suggesting humans destroyed an entire galactic civilization?" 5,000 years ago. "That's absurd," Vox protested. Mev opened another book. "This pattern has repeated. The Grath Collective, 2,000 years ago. The Stellar Union, 800 years ago. All encountered Earth, all dismissed humans as primitive, all subsequently disappeared." Trell activated a small device that projected emergency transmissions they'd intercepted over the past hours. Frantic alien voices described ships being disabled, systems failing, and in several cases, human representatives suddenly revealing advanced technology and taking control. "I've analyzed the pattern," Trell explained. "They infiltrated our society decades ago, posing as a primitive species just discovering space travel. But they were studying us, mapping our weaknesses. If they're so advanced, why hide it? Vox asked. Why the deception? Because, Mev said slowly, it is the perfect strategy. If they had approached as equals, we would have seen them as potential rivals. By appearing weak, they gained access to our technology, our defense systems, our entire infrastructure, while we suspected nothing. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of his crippled flagship, watching a human face on the main view screen. The human called himself Commander Jordan, and he wore a sleek black uniform unlike the simple clothes humans usually wore in Confederation space. Admiral, Jordan said calmly, your ship is disabled. Your escort vessels have been neutralized. I'm offering you and your crew terms of surrender. How? Krell demanded. How did primitives like you accomplish this? Jordan smiled slightly. We were never primitives, Admiral. That was a mask we wore for your benefit. But our observers on Earth, they saw your primitive rockets, your clumsy space stations. They saw what we wanted them to see, Jordan explained. We detected your probes centuries ago and made a strategic decision. Rather than announce ourselves, we created a careful illusion while preparing in secret. The view screen split to show images that stunned Krell into silence. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts. Advanced cities concealed beneath Earth's oceans. Weapons platforms disguised as space debris. While your observers watched our fake space program struggle to reach our own moon, Jordan continued, our real ships were already exploring distant stars through artificial wormholes that leave no energy signature. Krell sank into his command chair. Why reveal yourselves now? Why attack? This isn't an attack, Admiral. It's a rescue operation. On Earth, in the underground command center, General West monitored the global operation. Lieutenant Drake's team had secured the Confederation capital with minimal resistance. Admiral Krell's fleet had been neutralized. Phase 2 was proceeding perfectly. Colonel James approached with a data pad. General, we've received communication from the Outer Watch. West's expression turned grim. Show me. The screen displayed a star map with a strange distortion moving toward the galaxy from intergalactic space. Estimated arrival? West asked. 10 years, possibly less, James replied. The Confederation would never have detected it in time. Their monitoring systems were focused inward, not on the intergalactic void. West nodded. That's why we couldn't wait any longer. The Confederation's rigid hierarchy and centralized systems make them vulnerable. They would collapse within months of first contact. The captured Confederation leaders are being brought to the briefing room, James reported. Should we tell them about the threat? Yes, West decided. They need to understand why we've done this. We're not conquerors. We're preparing for the real war to come. Back in the archive, Vox was still struggling to understand. If humans are so advanced, why bother with us at all? Why not simply develop on their own? Mev handed him a final document. Because of this, long-range scans from 8 Earth months ago. Vox studied the readings. What am I looking at? Something approaching our galaxy, Trell explained. Something massive, and unlike anything we've encountered. The humans detected it years ago. Their infiltration of the Confederation wasn't conquest. It was preparation. Preparation for what? Vox asked, though he already feared the answer. For something worse than humans, Mev said quietly. Something that destroys entire galaxies. The humans believe the Confederation's rigid structure makes us vulnerable to this threat. Their deception was partly to protect themselves, and partly to protect us from our own complacency. Vox looked at the emergency transmissions still playing. Instead of battle, many showed humans taking control of key systems and stabilizing them. Not destroying, but reorganizing. We've made a terrible mistake, he whispered. Yes, Trell agreed, but not the one you think. Our mistake wasn't underestimating humans. It was failing to see what they were trying to prepare us for. Outside, the red emergency lights suddenly switched to normal lighting as power was restored to the capital. A calm human voice came over the communication system. "Attention all Confederation citizens. The transition of authority is proceeding peacefully. Please remain calm and comply with instructions from Earth Defense Force personnel. This is not a conquest. This is a reorganization necessary for our mutual survival. More information will follow." Vox looked at Trell and Mev. "What happens now?" "Now," Mev said, gathering his ancient books, "we learn how to work with the humans, because the alternative is extinction." 2 weeks after what was now being called the transition, Commander Vox found himself on a shuttle approaching Earth. Once classified as a backwater planet of little importance, it was now revealed as the center of the most elaborate deception in galactic history. The shuttle broke through the clouds, and Vox gasped. The human cities he saw bore little resemblance to the images in Confederation records. Instead of the crude, sprawling urban centers shown in their files, he saw gleaming metropolises with elegant towers that seemed to flow rather than stand. Vehicles moved in perfect coordination through the air, nothing like the primitive ground cars that humans had pretended to rely on. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Trell, who sat beside him. "They maintained fake cities for our observation satellites. Entire populations lived their lives as actors in a planetary-scale deception. Their shuttle landed at a facility outside a city the humans called Denver. Unlike the simple spaceports Vox had expected, this was clearly an advanced military installation that had somehow remained hidden from Confederation scans for centuries." Lieutenant Drake met them as they disembarked. "Commander Vox, Officer Trell, welcome to Earth. General West is waiting for you." They followed Drake through hallways filled with technology that made Confederation devices look primitive by comparison. Aliens from various Confederation species worked alongside humans, many looking dazed at the rapid changes to the galactic order. The command center they entered was enormous, a vast chamber extending deep into the mountain. Screens displayed real-time information from across the galaxy. General West stood at the center, directing the reorganization of what had once been the Confederation. "Commander Vox," West greeted him with a nod. "I understand you have questions." "Thousands," Vox admitted. "But I'll start with the most important. Why? Why the centuries of deception?" West gestured to a large conference table where Admiral Krell and several other high-ranking Confederation officials were already seated. "Please, join us. It's time you all understood the full picture." Once they were seated, West activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed Earth as it appeared 300 years ago. "In the year 1723 by our calendar, we detected the first Confederation probe entering our solar system," West explained. "At that time, we were indeed primitive by your standards. But we were advancing quickly." The display showed early human flight attempts, then rockets, then more advanced spacecraft. "We faced a choice," West continued. "Announce ourselves and join the Confederation as a junior member, subject to your rules and restrictions, or remain hidden while we developed on our own path. You chose deception," Admiral Krell said, his voice bitter. "We chose survival," West corrected. "Our scientists studied your probe and learned enough about Confederation technology to know that your development had stagnated. Your society values stability over innovation. You hadn't made a significant technological breakthrough in over 500 years." Vox wanted to protest, but knew the human was right. The Confederation prided itself on stability. "So we created the greatest covert operation in history," West said. "On the surface, we maintained the appearance of a divided, primitive world. We continued using outdated technology where your probes could see. We even staged conflicts to reinforce the image of a species too fractious to ever unite. The hologram changed to show vast underground complexes and hidden facilities throughout Earth's solar system. Meanwhile, beneath the oceans, under mountains, and in the shadows of moons and asteroids, we built our real civilization. We unified our planet under a secret world government. We developed technologies that took different paths than yours. Like what? Trell asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shock. Instead of pursuing faster-than-light drives like yours, we discovered how to create stable, undetectable wormholes, West explained. While you watched our clumsy rockets, our true ships were exploring the galaxy through doorways that left no trace. The display showed sleek black ships, nothing like the primitive spacecraft humans had publicly used. We established hidden colonies on thousands of worlds, West continued. We studied Confederation species, technology, and systems, all while maintaining the illusion of being an isolated primitive planet. But why reveal yourselves now? Vox asked. After centuries of deception, why expose your true nature? West's expression turned grim. He changed the hologram to show a massive dark shape moving through intergalactic space toward the Milky Way. Because of this, we call it the Void Swarm. It has destroyed at least 3 galaxies that we've observed. And it's coming here. The room fell silent as the alien officials stared at the hologram. The dark mass seemed to absorb light around it, a spreading blot against the stars. When will it arrive? Admiral Krell asked, his earlier anger forgotten in the face of this new threat. 10 years. Maybe less, West replied. The Confederation would have detected it eventually, but too late. Your centralized systems, your standardized technology, your rigid command structures, all are vulnerable to the swarm's attacks. How do you know this? Vox asked. Because we've been studying the swarm for over 50 years, West explained. Our wormhole technology allowed us to observe its effects on other galaxies. We know its patterns. It targets communications first, then defense systems. It isolates before it attacks. Just like you did to us, Krell realized. West nodded. We used the swarm's own strategy against the Confederation. Not to destroy you, but to reorganize you, to prepare you. He turned to address all the alien officials. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to save it. But to do that, we needed to take control quickly, before the swarm arrives. You could have simply told us, Vox protested. Would you have believed us? West asked. Would you have agreed to completely restructure your society based on warnings from a primitive species you barely respected? Or would you have dismissed us, studied the threat at your own pace, followed your protocols, and doomed us all? Vox had no answer. He knew the Confederation's bureaucracy all too well. A human officer approached and whispered something to West. The general nodded and addressed the room again. The first phase of reorganization is complete. 97% of Confederation worlds are now under the new defense protocol. We've established wormhole communication links to replace the vulnerable quantum network. He looked at each alien official in turn. Now comes the hard part. We have 10 years to prepare for a threat that has consumed entire galaxies. We'll need your help, your knowledge, your cooperation. And if we refuse? Admiral Krell asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Then we all die, West said simply. Humans, your people, everyone. The Void Swarm doesn't discriminate. Vox looked around at his fellow officials. Their expressions showed the same realization dawning on him. The humans hadn't conquered them out of ambition, but out of desperate necessity. What do you need from us? He asked quietly. West's stern expression softened slightly. Everything you know. Everything you are. We have 10 years to become something new together, something the swarm has never encountered before. Outside the mountain complex, Earth's sun was setting, casting long shadows across a world that had hidden its true nature for centuries. A world that was now the last hope for a galaxy facing extinction. 6 months after the transition, the galaxy operated under a drastically different system. The old Confederation, with its rigid hierarchy and central authority, was gone. In its place stood the Galactic Alliance, a more flexible network of worlds united by a common purpose: survival. Commander Vox, now serving as chief liaison between former Confederation species and humans, stood on the observation deck of the station Unity. The massive structure orbited a star at the edge of the galaxy, facing outward toward the approaching threat. From here, observation teams monitored the Void Swarm's slow but steady advance. "Remarkable progress," said a voice behind him. Vox turned to see Admiral Krell approaching. "Admiral," Vox greeted him. "I didn't expect to see you here." "My fleet is being refitted with human wormhole technology," Krell explained. "I thought I should see the enemy we're preparing to face." The two aliens looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, barely visible even with the station's powerful sensors, the darkness was coming. 6 months ago, I would have fought to the death to protect the Confederation from human control, Krell admitted. Now I find myself grateful for their intervention. Vox nodded. The old system wouldn't have survived first contact with the swarm. Too centralized, too dependent on quantum communications. Still, Krell said, I wonder sometimes, are we certain the humans are telling the truth? Could this all be an elaborate justification for their takeover? Before Vox could answer, Lieutenant Drake entered the observation deck. He had become Vox's regular human counterpart in the new administration. Forgive the interruption, Drake said, but General West has requested your presence for the demonstration. In a massive hangar bay, representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered around a central platform. General West stood with a team of human scientists and engineers, along with experts from various alien species who had been working together over the past months. Welcome, West began as Vox and Krell joined the crowd. Today marks a milestone in our preparations. He gestured to a device in the center of the platform, a sleek, dark cylinder about 2 meters tall. This prototype combines human wormhole technology with Confederation energy systems and material science from the Araxian people, West explained. Together, we've created something none of us could have developed alone. One of the human scientists stepped forward. The Void Swarm operates by disrupting standard communications and propulsion systems. This device creates a localized phase shift that should protect our ships and stations from that disruption. Should? Someone in the crowd asked. We can't be certain until we face the actual swarm, the scientist admitted. But our simulations based on observations of affected galaxies show a 94% probability of success. West continued. Production facilities across 27 worlds are being prepared to manufacture these devices. Within 4 months, every major population center and fleet will be equipped with this protection. As the presentation continued, Vox observed the faces around him. Species that had been enemies or rivals under the old Confederation were now working together with a unity of purpose that would have been unimaginable before. Fear of the swarm was part of it, yes, but there was something more. Later, at a reception following the demonstration, Vox found himself speaking with Officer Trell, who now headed a joint research division. They've changed us, Vox said quietly. The humans? Trell asked. Yes, not just our political structure or our technology. They've changed how we think. Trell considered this. The Confederation valued stability above all. We perfected our technology and then stopped pushing boundaries. Humans never stopped asking questions, never stopped looking for better solutions. Even their deception required incredible innovation, Vox agreed. Maintaining the illusion of being primitive while secretly advancing beyond us. It's almost admirable. Across the room, Admiral Krell was engaged in an animated discussion with Commander Jordan, the human who had captured his fleet months earlier. Rather than enemies, they now appeared to be colleagues, perhaps even friends. General West stood alone at a window, looking out at the ships coming and going from the station. Drake approached him. The aliens are adapting faster than we predicted, General, Drake reported. Especially the younger generations. West nodded. They have no choice. Neither do we. Some still question whether the Void Swarm is real, Drake said cautiously. Admiral Krell mentioned his doubts earlier. Then it's time to remove those doubts, West decided. Prepare a ship. We'll take the ranking former Confederation officials to see the evidence firsthand. 2 days later, a small group including Vox, Krell, Trell, and representatives from major alien worlds gathered aboard a human vessel unlike any they had seen before. Sleek and black, it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "This is a deep reconnaissance vessel," West explained as they boarded. "It uses our most advanced wormhole technology." "Where are we going?" Vox asked. "To the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy," West replied, "to witness what happens when the swarm arrives." The journey took moments rather than the years it would have required using Confederation drives. The ship emerged from a wormhole at the outskirts of the neighboring galaxy, maintaining a safe distance, but close enough to observe. What they saw silenced all doubts. Entire star systems were going dark, not exploding or being destroyed, simply fading, as if the light and energy were being drained away. The process was slow but relentless, a creeping death spreading across the galaxy's spiral arm. The inhabitants of that galaxy were like the old Confederation, West explained quietly. Centralized, standardized, predictable. They had no chance. "And you believe we can fight this?" Krell asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by horror. "Not as we were," West said, "but together, combining human adaptability with your ancient knowledge, bringing together the unique perspectives of 1,000 different species. Yes, I believe we have a chance." Vox watched as a distant star flickered and died, consumed by the advancing darkness. "We were wrong about humans," he said. "We saw their divided nature as weakness, but it was their greatest strength, the ability to think differently, to question, to find new paths." "And now?" Trell asked. "Now we learn from them," Vox said. "And they learn from us. If any combination of species can face the swarm and survive, it's this new alliance we're building." As the ship prepared to return home, Vox took a final look at the dying galaxy. The Confederation would have faced the same fate, he realized, not because humans had deceived them, but because they had deceived themselves, believing their stability meant safety. The journey back took only moments. When they emerged above Unity Station, the view couldn't have been more different from the death they had just witnessed. Ships of every design, from hundreds of worlds, moved in coordinated patterns around the massive structure. The combined fleet was growing daily, each vessel now incorporating both human and alien technology. West stood before the gathered officials. "Now you understand why we did what we did, why the deception was necessary." Admiral Krell stepped forward. "I was ready to fight to the death against your takeover, General. Now I'll fight just as hard alongside you." One by one, the other officials voiced similar commitments. As the meeting concluded, Vox approached West privately. "You could have simply conquered us," he said. "With your technology, we couldn't have stopped you." West shook his head. "Conquest wasn't the goal. Survival is, for all of us. Humans have always understood something the Confederation forgot. Diversity brings strength. Different perspectives, different approaches. That's what we'll need to face what's coming." Together, they looked out at the combined fleet, the physical embodiment of a new kind of unity, not the enforced standardization of the old Confederation, but a harmony of differences united by common purpose. The deception was over. The real work had begun.